Today we're talking with about one of my favorites. This is how I got started in marketing, is through direct mail. And I still think there's some very viable reasons why you would want to do direct mail to do some fundraising. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. And again, thank you, Karla, for Click to Mail, for being our sponsor. Why don't you give our audience just a quick overview of what Click to Mail is about?
Well, I do have a slide on that, but basically what it allows you to do is create mailings using a variety of different formats to send out postcards, letters, booklets, brochures, all online. So one of the key benefits we like to believe for a lot of busy people is you don't have to go to the post office anymore. So that's one of our big pieces. But I have one little slide in there to kind of go a little bit more over some of the details.
Okay, perfect. Not a problem whatsoever. You're the sponsor, so we appreciate that.
Great.
And with that, I'm just going to hand it on over to you and let you go.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Randy. We're really excited to be involved with the Nonprofit Hub because we also believe that direct mail is still a great option in today's digital world. So I'm going to talk a big overview about what direct mail marketing is, but then also talk about how to get qualified for nonprofit rates. Oh, here we go. Yeah, no, I can't move forward. Just one second. I'm seeing that problem again. Here we go. There we go. Okay, just a teeny bit about me. My name is Karla Humphrey, and I'm the Senior Business Coordinator for Click to Mail. I admit I'm a mail nerd. I blame my mother for that. When I was a child, she gave me the play school mailbox with the wooden box and the wooden letters, and fell in love with it, and I love it today. I've been with Click to Mail for a little over 10 years and love mail all the way around. So I admit it, I'm a nerd. So again, a little bit about Click to Mail. We offer online a suite of web-based tools to create and personalize mail. We're an affiliate of the Postal Service since 2003. We've mailed over 350 million letters, postcards over the last many years. We have supported, or we still continue to support, over 350,000 unique users. From your perspective, there's no upfront cost, no minimum orders, no permits, and lastly, no more trips to the post office. And we think that's definitely a benefit. Our slogan, our logo is, we make mail easy, and that's our goal, is to make people be able to use mail very easily. So in today's agenda, what I wanted to give you was a kind of a high-level view about what direct mail marketing is. You know, why would you still use it in a digital world? I'm sure you've heard the bad news, it's dead, it doesn't work, that kind of thing. But let's look at the industry and see what's going on. The other thing I want to talk about is, how do people respond to mail? How do they interact with it? Then I'm going to go into mail classes, and then look at nonprofit rates. How do you get qualified? Who gets qualified? A real overview of getting started, and then hope to have some time to answer some of your questions. So what is direct mail? I'm sure you've all seen your mailbox full of direct mail, so you have an idea what it is. But one of the key components to it is that it's has a physical value of promotional materials that allows your recipient to have the physicality of what mail is. And honestly, that's kind of what I love about it, is the fact that I get something in my home. It works great to nurture an ongoing relationship. It's something that allows you to bring your brand into the home, which is unique as it is. So why direct mail? Again, I'm sure you've heard the negative things. It's too expensive, it's dead, it doesn't work, it's hard to do. But when we look at the industry as a whole, we're seeing some interesting shifts. Number one, I want to mention, by no means are we saying, direct mail over everything, don't use digital. It's really the ability to incorporate direct mail in your marketing mix. I just read an article the other day that is saying, the olden days, they said 3 or 4 touches is enough to get your customer to convert or do some kind of action. Then I read it went up to 8 touches. And now I've heard it's unknown, because they're getting hit by information all over the place. And one of the places you may not have thought about is through their mailbox. So that's really kind of another way to touch the customer and your client. So again, adding direct mail to your digital campaign what the research is showing, that it helps to escalate the conversion rate. So that's really important. It has a great ROI. It can be automated. That's kind of new too, that you can set up your system using some really neat online tools like Zapier. If you've heard of that, it's amazing. But you could, after 10 emails, let's say, they don't respond, it's time to send a postcard. So you can set that up and make mail automated. And it's not intrusive. That's something that we're hearing from customers. This is a nice way to get a big message into the home. And lastly, people like it. If you're like me, you like it. And again, kind of going back to the digital overload, these are some statistics. I probably need to update them a little bit, but 74 trillion emails were sent last year. That blows my mind. I can't even relate to how big that number is. 2.4 million emails are sent every second. 300 hours of video are uploaded every minute. So that overwhelmed feeling of, being, the overload of what I'm seeing online is affecting some of the results now. And the other thing that I think we're hearing more and more about is, trust in online marketing is declining. We're hearing stories about, who's posting information on Facebook. Is it legit? Is it real? Is this organization real? So again, it's not one over the other, it's the mix. How can you kind of alleviate some of this concern to your client or your customer so that they see the value of your organization and learn, maybe through a printed material, who you are and that you're a valid organization. I attended a Postal Service / ANA meeting recently, and this is a test that was done through the Postal Service for mail moments in the spring of 2018. And one of the things that I think is really interesting is it's showing that, mail is still seen as an exciting moment. Again, I'm a nerd. I check the box every day, so I admit it. But what they looked at was kind of the age groups to see, consistently across the age group, do people like to receive it? And these are the results. I think there's several things that are interesting to me. The boomers, they're familiar with it. They know what they're looking for. They can look quickly and decide if they want to keep it or not. But what I think is interesting is they're seeing that millennials are liking it. And it could be that it's because it's looked at as old school, that it's personal to me. So again, the fact that, people like it and they still see it as something that's kind of positive, I think is pretty amazing in a very digital world. Another study that I just realized I didn't put a link on here, but if you'd like it, I'd be happy to send it to you. The Canadian Post did a study, I believe it was in 2016, about how does the brain react and like the neuroscience behind response-driven direct mail. And what they discovered was that the brain likes the physicality of what mail is, and that's true in physicality of books, reading a book online. Some people do prefer online, but they found that the retention rate was much higher. So it took only 21%, well, I'll just take that back. 20%, 1% less thought to process and create a much higher brand recall with the physicality of what mail is, that they're interacting with it. So it's a really interesting study. And again, if you'd like to get a copy of that, I'd be happy to send it to you. But I just think that's a real interesting thing that, what they concluded was the brain likes mail and they like the physicality of a book or something to touch. So the conclusion was direct mail was visibly processed quicker than digital mail, and it involved the senses. It brought in sight, touch, sound, and you're thinking sound, but think about the birthday card you got that you opened up and had your favorite tune inside. So the next example has to be one of my most favorite examples of how a mailer did a very creative direct mail campaign to a very targeted audience in the results. So let me share with this, and I hope it works okay. But this has got to be one of my most favorite examples of mail works so well to the right audience. Oh, shoot. Hang on just one second, please. Let me finish. Let's see if we can get out of this. Here we go. Okay.
I was going to say, no matter how much you try,
Yeah.
AV will get you.
Yeah. So, okay. Shameless cat video. Absolutely love that. I think that's a great example of incorporating, the physicality and all the essential parts of what direct mail could be, but that's got to be one of my most favorite examples. So the other piece, and like I mentioned earlier, the strength of direct mail is that you can integrate it into a variety of campaigns. What the industry studies have shown that when you do incorporate direct mail with your digital marketing, you do see higher return rates. So that's always a plus. The positive side, of course, is that they're seeing increases of acquisition and retention. So direct mail, another key thing that I think is so valuable, especially when you're a smaller organization or trying to get that recognition to your brand, is it literally brings your brand offline and into the home. So that's definitely one of the positives. This is another part of another study from IWCO Direct. What they looked at was a group of folks that were just doing totally online and then introducing them and incorporating direct mail into represent their digital ads. So when their recipients saw the same imaging, the same messaging online as well as the marketplace. So what they saw was about a 20% conversion rate when it was incorporated into the whole marketing mix. So better responses, better conversion. So I can't think of anyone, including my company, that would not want to see a 20% increase by including direct mail into their marketing mix. This is a case study of a customer we worked with, just to kind of give you an idea that regardless of size, it can really help. We work with a company called Domain Sales Global. He's a 100% online company, and he had been using email exclusively to sell domains to small, mid-sized customers or companies. So what he was doing was about 2,500 emails a month. His open rate, honestly, was pretty good. 25% was pretty darn good. But what he was not happy about was his sales were less than 1%. So he needed to come up with some way to kind of get his message out to his base. And what he decided to do was include a letter now to the same folks that he was emailing to. He was following up with a physical piece of mail. And this is what he found. So after a month, he saw his sales increase by 3.3%, which is great. He out of 330 letters that he sent, he had 11 sales. And you can see on the right-hand side, his upfront investment was $408 for the 330 letters, but his ROI was fantastic. So he saw his average sale increase to $981, and then his ROI was over 2,000%. So Dave Chandler is the president of that company, and the good news is that he saw a great ROI, and he's still doing the same marketing mix. He's added banners now to his sales too, so he has banners, email marketing, and then direct mail to his target audience. So again, it's the incorporation of all these touches to the customer to get your message across. So what happens then when direct mail does deliver? Most often, after someone receives a piece of mail, their next stop will be to go online. So again, one of the key points is making sure that your brand on your mailers and your online looks the same. So 44% went online with the brand to see who they were, learn more about them. They also went online to research. It could be they want to see, is this organization legit? Is there better offer than what they're sending to me in the mail? But it got them involved with another marketing channel. And then what they also discovered was that consumers were spending more time with their mail. This is another slide from the US Postal Service Mail Moments that the study they did in 2018. But what they found, and again, the results that strike me the most, I think, is the example of the generations, how they interacted. Boomers, again, they've been around direct mail for a long time, so they may respond differently. Excuse me, but the thing I think that's most interesting is that they're seeing that millennials are interacting with it differently, but they're hanging on to it. And I'll go in a little bit further about why they think that is. But I think it's interesting to think that mail is a generational thing that might be fading, and the younger generation may not want to get it or receive it or interact with it. And some of the results that are showing up is that they're seeing kind of a contradictive message. The other thing that happens when you get a piece of mail is it gets a little emotional. So I think that's really true. So people see it as a pleasure. They like to receive mail. Think about a birthday card. Think about some happy news, or you belong to an organization. They had great results from their fundraiser. So it's seen as a pleasurable activity. 55% said they look forward to reading their mail, which is, again, me, and I hope some of you in the audience as well. But, that people like it, so they like to receive it. And then lastly, I think that really one of the most interesting things is they see it as a little more personal than email. And one of the things that came out in another report is it made the individual that received it feel like the company or the organization was willing to commit a little bit more to them, because they know there's an expense related to direct mail, that it looked like they were kind of invested in making that relationship. And that relationship can start right at the mailbox. And by that I mean 98% of the people say they go out and check the mail, every day. So they bring the mail in, once it's delivered. And one of the things that I did not include in this, because I didn't want to go down too far the path, is the Postal Service themselves are doing some really interesting things about connecting the mailbox with online with informed visibility. So mailers, nonprofits, all different kinds of organizations are testing out this new method where you get a preview in your email that you can see what's in your mailbox. You get that on your phone, you click it, and you go right to the offer. So, the fact, again, that you're kind of bringing all those channels together is pretty amazing. 72% bring it in as soon as possible. 91% picked up by the same person each day, and I think that's really important. And of the 91%, 80% of those folks are women, and then 85% of the women are the ones that are making 85% of all the household purchases. So, targeting, keep that in mind as you develop your piece. Who is your target audience? It may not be a woman. I'm not saying only women respond, but I think it's interesting that someone that's very involved with this decision making is also the one that's looking at mail and deciding if it's going to be kept or not. Once it does get in the house, customers tend to interact with it. 77% sort it right away. In the industry, we say that a postcard has a 100% read rate. So people look at front and back. What the statistic is, it's about 3 to 5 seconds to review it. So they're looking right away, deciding what they're going to do. 42%, read or scan, and then the next statistic, 26% say that they keep it for future reference. What they didn't delve into, which I think would be really interesting, is do they pass it along? I'm a coupon person. If I get a coupon, I stick it in my bag or whatever, or I stick it in my backpack and, want to make sure I have it, or I might take it and show it to a friend. So I think the fact that people are saying, I'm hanging on to this for a reason. Again, another thing I think about is catalogs. Does that make sense? I keep the catalog around just because I want to make sure I didn't miss an opportunity to buy something or, interact with it. And then lastly, 79% of the potential customers will act with direct mail almost immediately. And keep in mind, a lot of that is they're going online to learn more. So again, some great information about how mail makes them interact with other channels. So let's look now at just the basic components of a direct mail campaign. We could talk about a lot of aspects of mail, creative and everything, but these are the three basic points that you have to keep in mind when you're putting together a direct mail campaign. So I'd like to call it 3 easy pieces. 40% of a successful mail campaign is the mailing list. Are you targeting the right people for your offer, for your message? Who are those people? Look at them, and that is a huge part of the success of a direct mail campaign. The next biggest chunk is, what's your offer? What are you asking your audience to do? Are you asking them to go online? Are you asking them for a donation? What's their incentive to buy or act? And these two really take some time to develop and think about. And then lastly, it depends on the creative execution. And by that I mean, what method is it going to be? Is the format going to be a postcard, or would it be better to be a letter? Or what does the copy say? Copy is huge. It's really important to explain what you're trying to get them to do. Is the paper stock important? There's a lot of, again, the tactability of what mail is, like would a scratchy surface kind of illustrate that your new laundry detergent makes your stuff softer. So it's really a combination of these 3 pieces that make a direct mail campaign successful. So we're going to talk about the list. House lists are gold. If you have past customers, you want to keep really good track of those folks. You want to make sure if they get back to you and say, by the way, I've moved, or this person is no longer at my residence. You need to really groom that list and make sure that you keep it up to date. House lists generate the best marketing results because these folks have identified themselves as being interested in your offer, your product, or your promotion. And again, a house list is one of the most valuable assets an organization or a company can have. Across the board, the industry will tell you that 40% of the reason why a campaign succeeds or fails is due to the list. So if you take away any activity like a homework activity, I would suggest that you sit down with some people in your organization and put together some of the components of what makes your best customer. One way to do that is look at your house list. What identifiers do they have in common that would help you to perhaps purchase a list? Which takes me to my next slide. So written list. Companies of all sizes can write a list. You can go online and use some online services to select the criteria for your list, pick it by location. You can get very specific with your selection. You might want to consider working with a list broker, but again, from your homework assignment, you really need to identify what does your best customer look like. So when you go to a broker or if you go online to pull a list, that will help you identify what criteria do I want to include to identify where I'm coming from that list. And then lastly, I bring up the point about knowing the rules for running a list. It can be very specific. And, now with a lot of the changes in the rules about email marketing and such, you really need to understand, can I use this list more than once? Am I only able to mail to this list once? So working with a list broker, they can help you with that. And most of the online companies will have the rules around how you use that list. And if you kind of wonder why, well, how would they know if I used it again? They know because they put seed addresses in those lists just to make sure that, if you only signed up to use it 2 times and then, a year later they're seeing that piece of mail address from that, they can look at it that way because it could be a seed list or seed piece that they receive. One thing I want to mention though, once your customer converts from a list, like they responded, they've done some action where they become your customer, that restriction goes away. So once you've acquired that customer, the rules of a rented list will go away. So don't worry that, I'm going to rent it and I could never have these people. That's not the case, but it's really important to understand the rules and talk to the list broker or look at the online requirements so you know what you need to know or how you need to manage your list. And then here's the offer. I can't mention enough how important your call to action is. You really need to tell them, what do you want that customer to do? If your offer is, yes, I want to become a part of your organization, here's my $25, headline that offer. Make it perfectly clear what your customer needs to do to be involved with your organization. And the second part of that, like these are two pieces, these all kind of go together, of course, but make it a good one. Don't let the customer wonder, what do they want me to do? Why did I get this? What is my offer? What's a compelling piece of my offer to make my customer to act? You really need to point it out to them and make it very easy for them to respond. And then lastly, tell your customer how to respond. Do you want them to go online? Do you want them to go to a URL? Do you want them to call a phone number? What do you want them to do? And then give them a way to do that. One of the things I see in direct mail, there may be a form in there, fill it out and return it to us in our business reply envelope. But if you're going to offer something like that, I strongly recommend you print one out, hand it to somebody to see if they can easily fill that form out. And even though you're giving them the options of going online or making an 800 phone call or whatever, it's still, when they see that, the motivation that they know they're supposed to respond in some method increases. So it's kind of, again, that, the brain gets it right away that I need to respond to that. Then the last piece is a creative. But, the thing I had a friend say to me, I was talking to a marketing person the other day, and he was saying, creative is super important, which it is. I'm not taking away from it. But he also followed up with, we all can't be Geico. Geico, and I think a Burger King does some pretty way out there creative kind of things. But we all, when I say Geico, I'm sure everybody in the room, know exactly what I'm talking about. But we're not all Geico. So creative job is to get a response. Don't lose what you want the recipient to do in clever messaging or pictures. If it's not clear, they're not sure what you want them to do. So if let's say you've been an organization forever and you have a cute little logo, absolutely use it, because they're going to recognize, oh, this means this. But don't get caught up in the clever messaging. The recipient doesn't need to be entertained. They just need to know, what I received, does it solve a problem or does it answer a question? So as tempting as it is, because I've seen some really fun creative stuff, but you don't get caught up in that as tempting as it can be. What it can be is that that creativeness could drive them online to see a little demo or whatever that could be a little more, higher creative-ish, but your message got them there through your physical piece of mail. And again, I'm not saying that compelling creative isn't critical. This message comes out loud and clear. Do you need some help? So, but don't, overemphasize its value. And these are just some bonus tips when you're creating a mail piece. Emphasize guarantees, use testimonials, tell a story. People do like to read that. Can you tell a story with pictures? Can you give an example of before and after? Can you make your, definitely make your offer time sensitive? You must respond within the next 60 days to get this. When you're asking for a donation, give them the check boxes. Start out with $100, check box that one, and the next is $75, and go down from there. But give them the suggested amount up front so they don't have the opportunity to write in $5 or whatever. So that's really important. If you've got some kind of special pricing going on, make sure that's bolded and very much emphasized so they know what the offer is or why this piece of mail arrived to them. Offer them a free gift. If they buy something through your catalog, offer them free shipping. If they ask now, offer them a free trial. So those are just some side things to think about as you create your mail piece. Then, of course, the other part of all this is somebody's got to deliver it. And like I said before, we're proud partners of the US Postal Service. And there's many delivery options, but I'm just going to highlight the ones that I think would probably more be applicable to this group. First class mail, you all are familiar with it. It's the letter with a stamp on it. You can personalize it. It's the fastest delivery. But I want to point out that there is not a special discounted rate for nonprofits. So first class is a class by its own. You can send one piece, you can send millions of pieces, but there is no special discounted rate for a nonprofit as a first class mail piece. Marketing mail, however, is where you'll see nonprofit rates. Marketing mail, you might know it as standard mail, or way back when it used to be called third class mail. Right now, the post office is calling it marketing mail because that's its goal. You can personalize it to a degree, and this is where it gets a little gray. You can't send first class mail as marketing mail. There are restrictions around that. If in doubt, I always suggest that you go down to your post office, ask your mail partner, do you think I'm going to have a problem or whatever? But, you can personalize it to a degree. And by that, like, say, Dear Bob, thank you for your donation, but you can't go into, Dear Bob, we saw for the last 10 years that you've given us $50 and last year you gave $100. So you can't get that specific. So you can get, just to be aware, marketing mail is not first class mail, so it does have some restriction. Definitely a slower delivery time. What we see generally is it can add, delivery could be between 7 and 14 days. It's very seasonal. As you get closer to the holiday season, marketing mail tends to slow down because first class is up. So it's one of the services or classes of mail the post office can waylay. So first class mail will go out first and then marketing mail. So when you're planning a campaign and you're planning to use marketing mail, definitely keep that in your timeline. It's definitely cheaper postage. So that's a big plus. If you can do a semi-personalized marketing piece that you can send out at a slower time, definitely a good option. And then under marketing mail, nonprofit rates. This is a lower rate for qualifying organizations. It's approximately 40%. Sometimes it's even more of a discount on postage rates. But again, it's got to be a qualifying organization. The other one I wanted to pitch in here is it is part of marketing mail, but it's one you may have heard of. The post office did a big push about every door direct mail, or EDDM. What it is you're saturating a neighborhood. You can go on to the Postal Service or other providers, mail service providers. You can go online, put in your zip code or an address. You'll see a map pop up, and you will go in and be able to pick the routes that you want to focus on. There is no personalization. Everybody gets the same piece of mail. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. It depends again what you're trying to promote and what your offer is. So if you discover that you're a church, for example, and you want to send a nonprofit mailing, you may decide that you've realized, people don't go more than 2 miles radius from our church. So you can go in and pick routes just within that 2 mile radius. So you're sending a piece of mail to every individual in that neighborhood. They all look the same. There's no, Dear Bob or anything on it. But the other thing that's great about every door direct mail is it's a larger format at a much cheaper rate. So without getting too postally, think of an 8.5 by 11. And if that were a cardstock piece of mail, it's not, it's often referred to as a postcard, but that is called a flat in postal world. So what it is, it's a larger formatted piece of mail. So it gives you more real estate to talk about whatever your promotion or whatever organization is trying to do. And the last thing I wanted to mention, we do see that this is a great introductory product to kind of test the market to see if you get responses with marketing mail. One of the things I would say that we see a lot of nonprofits use every door to mail, direct mail, and they're using it for church events or social events, the community event. We see communities will use it to announce that they're going to spray for mosquitoes in certain areas. Churches that have a hobby, a craft show or whatever, they're using it. So again, it's a great way to kind of get started, and it doesn't take a lot to get started doing it. Can you create a really pretty piece, and then everybody in the neighborhood knows about what your promotion is. This is another success story, a nonprofit. We worked with the Cherrydale Volunteer Department, and when we first started working with them, they had a very small house list. When we started working with them, what we discovered was it's a volunteer organization. They had part of a list on one computer, and somebody left and another list was gone. And then, they had lists that were handwritten out. So, again, house lists are golden, but they had kind of lost track of where all the house lists were. And then the other thing they did that they really felt bad about is they had people that were contributing, but they were not following up and saying thank you. Even if it was a phone call or an email to say, thank you for your contribution, they didn't do that. That's something they really wanted to change. And then the other piece of it, they didn't know they could qualify for nonprofits rates. So, those are definitely things that they wanted to address. So they wanted to do a mailing. They wanted to do it near the end of the year, primarily because they were asking for a tax-deductible donation. So their goal was to increase community awareness and increase their donations. So this is what we did. We created with them a marketing letter to their house list that said, this is what we're doing with your money. We want you to know and thank you for your past donations. So that was really an icebreaker for some people that had kind of fallen off the face off the map. So number one, we got them qualified for nonprofit rates. They saved $1,500 that first mailing. And another thing I thought was really fun for them, on the screen you can see that kind of slanted, they're asking, yes, I want to support the neighborhood fire and emergency medical technical volunteers. And they did what we suggest. They have a checkbox that you can select which level of donation you want to do. But that QR code was great idea for us that we incorporated. They had just launched a new website. So if somebody got that piece of mail in their mailbox, they could pick up their phone, scan the QR code, it would go right into the website, and they had the ability to make a payment through PayPal right to their website. So that was really innovative. It was something they'd never done before. So what they saw was an increase in donations by 18%, increased community awareness. I don't know if there's a measure for that, but they feel that their community knows who they are. They know now that people are going online to their Facebook page, and they're following them, they're learning about other events that they may have. And then lastly, they sent out a really nice thank you to their benefactors. And that picture there is a picture that we took in front of one of the test locations that they used on their thank you cards to say, thank you for your support. So simple, easy, and they were able to get it out before the end of the year, as was their goal. So who qualifies for nonprofit rates? Number one, I should have put this in a different order, but just because you're an IRS nonprofit status does not mean you automatically qualify for nonprofit rates. That is entirely a decision of the Postal Service. So keep that in mind. Don't just assume you are, but it's not a horrible process to go through, but just keep that in mind. Nonprofit rates are only applicable to domestic mail, so you can't send mail overseas with nonprofit rates, and individuals are not eligible for nonprofit rates. So those are a couple of the key factors. Here's an example of organizations that typically qualify. If your organization is not there, don't panic. It doesn't mean that you don't qualify. It just means these are some of the featured ones that are most commonly accepted. You might notice that some clubs kind of thing aren't there. Again, it's kind of case by case. It's again the decision of the Postal Service, but one that you might notice too is Chamber of Commerce's aren't listed there. So keep that in mind. Don't panic if you don't see you kind of fall in one of these groups. It doesn't mean that you can't qualify, but it doesn't mean that you will automatically qualify either. A couple other nonprofit requirements are you must mail 200 pieces at once. So every mailing that you would mail has to have at least 200 pieces. You need to take it to the bulk mail unit. The mail contact must meet the USPS marketing mail requirements, so it can't be non-commercial content. Excuse me. Nonprofit is handled as standard mail, so it's slower mail delivery. So if you're planning a campaign, you need to keep that in mind. The last one I want to mention that I think is important is nonprofit mail is subject to postal inspection. That's not a bad thing. What I'm trying to emphasize is if you brought in a nonprofit mailing and you're at the dock, dropping off your mail with a bulk mail unit, they can open up that piece of mail to verify that it does meet the requirements of marketing mail. They can't do that with first class mail, but if you were to happen to take your mail in yourself and you saw that, they're not doing anything wrong, but that is one of the understandings as a mailer that they have the ability to check your mail to make sure it's meeting all the qualifications. And then lastly, if you've already qualified, you must mail one mailing during a 2-year period to keep your status. If you had status and you lost it, again, work with your mail house or a company like us, and we can help to see if we can reinstate it. Sometimes it's just talking to the post office and ask them, they're aware of who you are and they see you because they don't lose those records. But, that's one qualifying you have to do to keep your status active. So what documentation do you need? PS Form 3624, easy enough. It's an online application that you can fill out online. It's on USPS.com. It's on our website. It's on a lot of our other companies that are online. You can pick up the form at the post office. You will need evidence to show that you're a qualifying nonprofit organization with formation papers, articles of incorporation, constitution or charter. You do need to have your IRS letter of exception for payment, so make sure you have that included. And this is the term the post office says, other evidence to support your nonprofit status. So that could be minutes. It could be your state status. So the and more, it can be and more. So again, don't panic. You probably have all this information already. It's just making sure you provide that to the post office when you're trying to qualify. And lastly, one of the final notes I want to make is it worth finding out? It doesn't cost you anything to do it. So if you're a nonprofit organization, you want to find out. Again, it's about a 40% savings on postage costs. So an example here is 5,000 letters that were sent via nonprofit rate saved the organization $1,500 compared to first class mail. Again, if your message can fall into the marketing mail qualifications, it's definitely worth the money or the time to invest to find out if you qualify. This is a review from one of our customers that we've worked with. They were thrilled. They didn't know they could qualify for nonprofits. They're a small organization, and what they were discovering, it was just too expensive to do. But using the fact that they were able to go online and mail as well as become a nonprofit mailer, they saw a 25% savings right off the bat. So we really enjoy, and I'll say personally, I really enjoy working with small businesses and nonprofits because they're just fun. They're excited, and it's fun to show them the different ways they can use mail and make it effective. So my last point is, why does direct mail matter? Here's some really good points that I'd like to point out. 56% of people found that direct material or printed material was more trustworthy of all medias. This report came out from CompuMail, which I think is really interesting. Young people like it. I think that's one of the biggest things takeaways that I think is interesting is, they're seeing that millennials and young people are liking it. Millennials, they say, prefer printed coupons over internet downloads and internet print at home. And that could very much be that they don't have a printer anymore or on their cell phones. The last one is, millennials tend to like the physicality of mail, and they will use the voucher because they can carry it around and share it. So, questions?
All right. Let's see if they have any questions out there. You can go ahead and use the question box. So far, so good. So you must have been incredibly thorough. Appreciate that.
Great.
Let's see. So far, so good. Well, once again, thank you so much for talking with everyone today. As we're waiting for if they have any questions, do you have anything else that you'd like to share about Click to Mail?
Yes, I do. I want to make a special offer to the folks that are in attendance today. We do work with a lot of nonprofits, small businesses, to see if we can get them qualified for the nonprofit rates. If you go onto our website, there's a little form you can fill out, and it's normally a $99, working with you in the post office to get you qualified. And for everybody in the presentation today, we're offering to waive that $99 fee. So if you'd like to take advantage of it to see if you do qualify, it's not going to cost you anything, but you can send an email to support@clicktomail.com, and in the subject line, if you put Nonprofit Hub Special, that would be great. Or if you want to go online and fill out the little form, you can do that. Or if you'd like to email me directly, I'd be happy to help you and see if we can get you qualified for nonprofit rates, or learn even more about how you can use Click to Mail and direct mail in your marketing mix.
Thank you so much for being so generous, and thanks once again for being a great supporter of Nonprofit Hub. We really appreciate that. And thanks for sharing the good word about direct mail.
Great. Yeah. And here's here's a contact information for me or our organization. I think you said, Randy, that if folks would like to stick around and kind of go through a short demo, I'd be happy to do that if anyone is interested, or you could contact me directly, and I'd be glad to do a share screen so we can walk you through the process as well.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and go ahead and reach out to Karla if you're interested, and she will give you a quick demo. And otherwise, make sure you check out Click to Mail and all the cool stuff that you can do with them. Thanks again, Karla, for being here. I really like when we can do some different items and open the eyes of our viewers to other opportunities when it comes to marketing in the nonprofit sector. So I appreciate that, Karla.
Great. Glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you bet. And thanks to all of you for listening. The only thing that we ask as far as payment, because it's absolutely free thanks to people like Click to Mail, that you fill out the survey that comes your way when we close out yet today. If you'd fill that out, that would be great. And with that, it's kind of one of those situations where I can say only good morning to the folks across the pond, but good evening to everyone else. And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you.